Calaroga Shark Media.
From poolside, where it's 82 degrees, partly cloudy, and a UV index of 8, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Out today on HBO Max, is that what we're calling it this week? Conan O'Brien Must Go, Season 3. 4 new episodes. Conan O'Brien must go to India, the Netherlands, Morocco, and the Philippines. Condé Nast said, "Hey, Conan, you seem like you were having a blast making the show." Conan said, "It was a little bit of both. Let's say we had a terrific fan who was from Cleveland, Ohio. I wouldn't go visit that fan because that isn't kind of the travel I want to be doing. No knock on Cleveland. Good thing he cleared that up. Cleveland's going to get mad. Deacon Mike lives in Cleveland. He'll be throwing stuff across the room." You're like, "Hey, that Deacon, he seems pretty friendly." Oh, no. I've seen him throw, we used to work at a radio station together. I've seen him throw a reel-to-reel. I've seen it. Hi, Deacon Mike. I digress. Conan's not coming to see you, Deacon Mike. Conan says, "So sometimes I'll find a great fan and realize, oh, they're from Norway. Wouldn't I love to go to Norway? First, it looks great, but it's also a great cultural contrast. I'm very tactile, and I insert myself into people's personal space. The Norwegians don't like that. So then I think, well, this could be a funny dynamic, and that makes us want to meet that fan even more." Conan explains, you want a country to be visually interesting. You also want it to be a place where maybe its customs and culture are going to provide a great setting for a fish-out-of-water story. A lot of thought goes into each episode, but so much of what ends up happening is very guerrilla style. They were curious how much improv comedy happens in the show, Conan explained. "I was never a stand-up comedian. I got started doing improvisational comedy, and that's really my comfort zone. I love trying to make something happen. If I just met you on the street and we started talking, I'd probably try to make something fun happen in the moment, and those moments often yield good results. That's part of my inspiration for doing the show poolside. Aside from it's 82 with a UV index of 8 and I don't want to be inside, do you hear the landscapers?" Conan said, "The people I met were so funny and had a real sense of irony. They were really good comedic partners. I'm never showing up to shoot comedy at strangers. I'm there to try and get a spark between us and see what happens. What I learned from doing comedy in front of an audience every night is you may go in with an idea of what you're going to talk about, but the greatest thing in the world is an accident. If David Bowie's on the show and something goes wrong, perhaps his coffee mug breaks accidentally because it was cracked, that's not a disaster. I'll jump in here. That sounds like a very specific made-up scenario. I'm guessing that actually happened." Conan says, "When you travel, things don't always go to plan. They just don't. And if you're ready to find the humor in it and improvise and figure out another way, you're going to have a great trip. Making the show is a combination of preparing for something and then preparing for things to go another way completely. I'm at my happiest when things are a little off kilter. I don't know why, but in all the years that I was doing my late night show, I was at my calmest when things got chaotic." That'll bring us in a few minutes to my Chris Fleming premise. Make 12:30 great again. We'll get there. Stay with me. We're still in the Conan article. Conan said, "I always remember there's another audience, which is the camera, so that when I fail, I can turn to them and look slightly deflated, and they might understand, even enjoy, seeing things not necessarily going my way. I have to remind myself that it's not just me and this person who perhaps doesn't know what I'm talking about." Harper's Bazaar profiled Chris Fleming. Now hear me out here. I know some of you like Seth Meyers a little more than I do, but the president and I are aligned on this issue. We need to make 12:30 great again. I mean, Seth Meyers is in the middle of a 7-week vacation. Is anyone crying out going, "Oh, I really miss Seth Meyers"? No. It is time to make 12:30 weird again. In the great tradition of Late Night with David Letterman and Late Night with Conan O'Brien, I propose to you, it is time for Late Night with Chris Fleming. Let's give him the slot. What are we going to do with Seth Meyers? Don't know. He can go on Peacock. Don't know. Make 12:30 great again. Harper's Bazaar writes, "It's not loud enough for Chris Fleming. It's a Tuesday night in June near West Hollywood. Nearly 300 fans have packed the Largo for Chris Fleming and Friends, a recurring variety show. Hosted by Chris Fleming, he opens the evening, performs between sets, and brings out a rotating lineup of surprise guests. He takes the stage a few minutes after 8, dressed in a vintage electric teal two-piece, a sleeveless collared top, and bell-bottom pants. That's little David Bowie with a hint of Evel Knievel. Exactly. This is what we need at 12:30 on NBC. The crowd is howling. Multiple people are in tears, and yet the laughter is not quite where Chris Fleming wants it to be. He thinks he's losing people. After the show, Chris told the reporter, I don't have a thing that a lot of comics have where there's an unfillable void in me until it comes to the volume of laughter. It's almost like you're conducting. I'm completely in their experience as well as my own, and I'm so in my own world. It's brutal. I can't not say what's on my mind about how they're not reacting. Mark Maron said Fleming really has an amazing freedom of mind on stage. A lot of the connections he's making in terms of how he moves around the stage and the manic, seemingly stream of consciousness and method he's chosen, it's a rare thing to be improvisationally that flexible. Fleming says, I'm just delivering the news. You never want yourself to be the thing people are obsessed with. You want your ideas to be the thing people are obsessed with. No one gives a hoot about me. They want the product I'm working on. If you're the personality, you're cooked. That last special on HBO was me firing at the height of my powers. He decided to become a comedian. He said, my mom was like, how do you think you're going to get cast? You need to write your own material. Chris Fleming began studying performers he considered singular. That list, listen to this list: Richard Simmons, Robin Williams, Ricky Martin, Eddie Izzard, Steve Martin, Michael Jackson, Maria Bamford, and Michael Flatley of Lord of the Dance. You know what? You throw all that in a blender, I get it. We are told what united them was not a style as much as a totality, a commitment to physicality, spectacle, and a persona entirely their own. We'll keep it with late night for a while. There was a resurfaced interview from Byron Allen back in May when Colbert was winding down. Apparently, Byron Allen had a heated conversation with NPR journalist Alyssa Chang, who kept asking Byron Allen if he was asked by CBS and Paramount not to do politics. Sounds like she didn't do her research. It is well known, maybe it's just because I host a comedy podcast, I think it's well known that Byron Allen has told people, as he says it, I said 20 years ago, don't do anything political, don't do anything racist, sexist, any of that 20 years ago, because the stuff ages and gets dated. Now, this was when Byron's show was still on at 12:30, and he said, "We won this. Since September, we're beating Seth Meyers, who's been on way longer than 18 months. I'd have to fact-check that. But first of all, let me say loud and clear, never bet against Byron Allen. The guy's a billionaire for a reason. He is super smart. If you've listened to interviews with him, that comes across, and he's very, very likable when you listen to him. But if he was beating Seth Meyers, I mean, NBC should have Chris Fleming on Monday." Byron Allen said, "Now what's happening? You have to look at this because we go by the numbers. Remember, it's a business show, not show business. The repeats on political humor, when you do a show, the repeats are negative 52%. The shows that are doing political humor, the repeats negative 52%. The repeats on Comics Unleashed, negative 14%. Why? Because I'm not talking about something that happened 8 weeks ago or 12 weeks ago." Allen said for a while he wanted to create Comics Unleashed for his comedian buddies because he didn't feel at that time, 20 years ago, there was a good forum for diverse voices. And he wanted to be super clear. CBS does not give notes. Quote, "I want to be clear. I have absolutely not had any conversations with anybody at CBS or Paramount about what to say or not to say. Politics are no boundaries. CBS has not given any notes, any feedback about don't be political." Again, don't bet against that man. The writers from Stephen Colbert's show have a little bit of work. Mariska Hargitay, who is this year's Emmy host, has revealed that she's working with the writers from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. She told Deadline, "We're at the beginning stages, so we're throwing out a lot of different ideas. I'm working with an incredible team of writers, the writers from Colbert. We've been meeting a lot, discussing a lot, and pitching a lot of ideas. We're pitching so many ideas." She sounds like Trump there. The greatest ideas. These are the best ideas. From foodbusiness.net, your home for comedy news, Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel. His salsa brand Guillermo's is going nationwide. Now, John, you probably want to make fun of this because you made a lot of fun of Jim Gaffigan bourbon, and I know, I've learned my lesson. Jim Gaffigan, award-winning bourbon maker. I can still make fun of George Lopez tacos, but I'm not going to bet against Guillermo here. Guillermo said, "I've always wanted to have my own salsa, and I'm very happy. The salsa is so good. It's fresh and authentic." The president of the company is a guy named Chris Kirby, who said, "Guillermo's is not just a celebrity brand. That's obviously what gets us a lot of attention, you think, but we really think the product is the star. Guillermo might get consumers to try the product once, but taste is what gets them to buy it again." Now, despite what Mr. Kirby said, here's this next quote. "I made the salsa and sent it to Guillermo, and Guillermo said, 'Yep, this is good,' and I would put my name on this. That's all we needed." So it's really Kirby salsa with Guillermo's face on it, dude. Guillermo salsa comes in mild, medium, and hot varieties. Ingredients are micro-diced for consistent texture and taste. Mr. Kirby says you'll find that taste in every single bite. Sebastian Maniscalco was on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. He talked about the Sebastian impression that Marcello Hernandez does and told Fallon, "I'm wondering how I get on the show. My dad's upset. He's like, 'What's going on? They're imitating you and making all this money off you, and you're not even there.' But Sebastian said, 'It's good, very flattering. I don't even know if Harry Styles knew who I was. I think they probably had to show him a video and go, 'Could you do this?' You never know who knows and doesn't." Another reminder, I do another show. It's called 5 Good News Stories. Every day, 5 things that went right in the world. No politics, no outrage, just good news. It's like 5 minutes long, comes out 4 days a week. Those days are Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you listened to yesterday, you got to wait till tomorrow. But anyway, follow the show wherever you find this one. And it is Friday. It is time for the Comedy Stock Market. Take it away, Burt Reynolds.
Comedy Stock Market.
I don't want to force this as a segment. I don't really have a lot of ideas. A lot of the news this week was around people like Shane Gillis, and we bought some Shane Gillis stock last week. So if you want to buy more Shane Gillis, sure, buy more Shane Gillis. I do think we should buy some stock in a landscaping company. With the amount of landscapers just surrounding my house, there's apparently a lot of business in northern New Jersey. Maybe we open a landscaping company and forget about this podcasting nonsense. Let's also buy some stock in Dane Cook. If you caught yesterday's DCN Live, I talked a little bit about the new Dane Cook movie that is coming out in September. I will do a deeper piece about that on Monday's audio podcast. But let's buy some stock in Dane Cook and a landscaping company and maybe Shane Gillis. No sells this week, not feeling negative. And that's a pretty boring comedy stock market on this Friday. We have a bunch of legal stories to go over. Comedians Eric Andre and Clayton English have reached a settlement in a lawsuit that they had filed challenging a police program at the Atlanta airport that they said used racial profiling and coercive searches. Just as airline passengers, particularly black passengers, were about to board their flights. The lawsuit, originally filed in 2022, alleged that the two men were racially profiled and illegally stopped at the airport in Atlanta. The men said officers at the airport had singled them out because they were black and grilled them about drugs, while other passengers watched. In the lawsuit, Eric Andre called the experience dehumanizing and demoralizing. Eric Andre said in a press release, "It's a major victory that Clayton County has confirmed that it has ended this program and is now taking steps to prevent this type of abuse from happening in the future." English said in the release, "What happened to me was wrong, and I wasn't willing to let it happen to other people." The County Board of Commissioners authorized a payment of $30,000. Half goes to each comedian. The county also agreed to require police officers assigned to the airports who use body-worn cameras and to undergo training on constitutional limits. Police records cited in the lawsuit showed that between August 30th, 2020 to April 30th, 2021, there were 402 jet bridge stops. Of the 402, race was listed in 378 of those stops. Of those 378 passengers, 211, 56% were black, and people of color accounted for 258 total stops, or 68%. The 402 stops also resulted in 3 reported drug seizures. The report here says that yielded more than $1 million in cash and money orders from a total of 25 passengers. Over at the Fringe Festival, a venue has accepted that it discriminated against a Jewish comedian when it canceled his show at last year's Fringe. Philip Simon was due to perform his show last year, but the venue scrapped it at short notice after it carried out, quote, routine, unquote, checks on his social media. Apparently, reports last year say that the venue told Chortle that Philip Simon's views align with, quote, groups associated with humanitarian violations. Philip Simon suggested he had been canceled, quote, just for being Jewish. And in China, a stand-up comedian considered one of China's most influential cultural figures has been placed under investigation and had some performances canceled. Guo Dezhang is China's best-known comic. He was accused of violating public morals after he improvised his own lyrics to a famous Chinese revolutionary song. He was reported to the city's Culture and Tourism Bureau by a complainant who said that the comedian had not only distorted and vulgarized a classic revolutionary work, but also violated public morals and accepted standards of conduct. The song in question, Playing My Beloved Pipa, I believe it's pronounced, is said to capture the resilient spirit of communist guerrilla forces fighting the Japanese during the Sino-Japanese War. The original lyrics are, quote, the sun is about to set in the west, all is quiet on the Waishan Lake. The comedian switched the lyric to All is Quiet in the Forbidden City. The Wuhan Culture and Tourism Bureau said the adapted portion performed by the comedian was not included in the material submitted for prior approval and is suspected of violating the regulations on the administration of commercial performances. Dave Chappelle, remember that story next time you're claiming you're canceled. And that is your comedy news for today. Tomorrow, the deep dive is about Robert Schimmel. I got to work with him a lot. It's like 20 years ago now. He was a good guy and a great comedian. And like a lot of comedians from the beginning of this century, Dane Cook on that list as well, kind of been forgotten and overshadowed by the bro podcaster YouTube era. But there were some great comics I'm going to talk about. John Panette in an upcoming week. People seem to like the Ralphie May one from last Saturday. So tomorrow we'll do Robert Schimmel. I think I may have said in the Facebook group that I was doing Panette, but Panette is probably 2 weeks out, maybe 3 weeks out, because I do want to do some Jerry Lewis stuff for Labor Day weekend. I got to do the math on that, how that falls. No, the Labor Day is the 7th, so probably Schimmel and then John Panette. Anyway, follow the show wherever you get your podcasts and download it tomorrow, and you'll see who I wind up talking about. Bye.